and I see people saying, you look like you have AIDS, you should go die. I don't understand how I dedicated 22 years of my life to my fans. And
do you regret ever getting involved in?
I didn't have a choice. It got bad when I was about 15 years old, because when I did MTV Cribs, the day that I had to go show off that house, my mom and my dad told me, we're getting a divorce. You still have to go do this. I had to go show off all this stuff my whole life.
New shocking claims have just surfaced about what Diddy may have done to Aaron Carter, and it's reportedly shaking up his legal team. In fact,
with Diddy, it's hard for me to truly get invested in what's happening to Liam Payne right now, because I haven't gotten over what happened to Nick's brother, Aaron Carter.
Right.
A lot of people keep forgetting Aaron Carter was begging for help, begging for independent financing.
Insiders say Diddy's lawyers are now more convinced than ever that things aren't looking good for him in court. Aaron Carter was found dead in his bathtub back in 2022, with reports saying he drowned, but many people have serious doubts. How does someone just drown in their own bathtub like that? Rumors have been floating around that Aaron was about to go public and expose some disturbing.
The testimony in the sex trial against Sean Combs ended with a former member of one of Combs' musical groups on the witness stand. Dawn Richard says that she saw Combs attack Cassie Ventura in 2009. Richard is suing Combs in federal court, accusing him of sexual assault and battery. She'll be back on the witness stand on Monday. Richard's civil lawsuit is still pending. Does that impact how these attorneys approach her if they try to color this as some way of I guess, supporting her civil case? How does that difference impact the approach to these witnesses?
I think that can be argued either way. For instance, where the fact that Ms. Ventura's case, her civil case is already settled and the money's already been received, to me, that doesn't count against her. Perhaps it counts to her credibility because she chose to participate in the criminal trial anyway. However, where Ms. Richard is concerned, the fact that she is participating when, frankly, a criminal conviction may harm her ability to recover. It may harm Mr. Combs' ability to have the finances, the funding to be able to pay any recovery. So there are risks either way. I just think that as people are watching, they need to remember trials involve humans, and humans are messy. So you don't have any purity tests in terms of your witness is on the stand and has never done anything wrong, or your defendant is on the stand and has never done anything right. There's a lot going on both sides, and it really is up to the jury to ferret that out as long as they're given the right facts.
Things about Diddy's private life around 3 years ago, but before he had the chance, he was gone. We'll dig into that more later. For now, what we do know is that Diddy's day of reckoning may be here, as more people come forward and speak about what they claim he's done. Diddy is now facing a wave of serious accusations. According to the government, he was running a hidden operation involved in illegal actions, including moving people from state to state, hiding large amounts of money, and using his celebrity status to do harm.
Richard said, you've met with government prosecutors 8 times over the last year and a half. And over the course of those 8 meetings, you've changed your story at least 4 times when it comes to multiple incidents. And Richard acknowledged that her story has changed. And she said that it's really just about her memory, that she tried to block all of these things out, and that she's been trying to remember, and all of these meetings with prosecutors has helped her. But it was not good for her that her story has changed so many times. And then they also doubled down on the fact that she has filed her own civil suit seeking money from Combs.
Chloe, we know Cassie Ventura's former best friend is also testifying today. What has she said so far?
So her name is Carrie Gordon, and when Cassie Ventura was on the stand last week, she talked a lot about this friend of hers that witnessed a lot of the abuse house and that this was someone that she confided in. And Miss Gordon, she's already taken the stand for a few hours. Right now they're on a lunch break and she's expected to return this afternoon. And she said, look, I don't really even want to be here. I was given a subpoena. I'm forced to be here to testify. I haven't spoken to Combs or Miss Ventura since 2018. And that's because
One of the more disturbing claims is that he assaulted his ex. Now the entire country is paying attention. In just the past week, we've seen
The Department of Homeland Security has just confirmed to CNN that federal law enforcement agents have raided properties owned by musician and producer Sean Diddy Combs. Let's bring in CNN security correspondent Josh Campbell and CNN legal analyst Joey Jackson. Josh, let me start with you. What do these raids by federal agents in multiple locations tell you about the seriousness of this investigation?
Yeah, Wolf, a very significant development here, seeing this law enforcement action taking place. I'll point out, just to be clear at the outset, we don't know that Sean Diddy Combs himself is the subject or target of a federal investigation. So it's just worth pointing that out at this hour. But what we do know is that two properties associated with him, we saw the feds descend on those properties. We saw in aerial footage, federal agents both here in the Los Angeles area as well as in Miami at those residences. Now, the Department of Homeland Security, their what's called HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, gave CNN a statement. I'll read you part of that when asked about what this activity is. They say that earlier today, HSI New York executed law enforcement actions as part of an ongoing investigation with assistance from HSI Los Angeles, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners. That is it, confirming that they are conducting what they're deeming law enforcement action, which could indicate search warrants being conducted there, could indicate arrests being conducted. We just don't know at this hour specifically what that law enforcement action is. It is worth pointing out, though, that Combs himself obviously has faced significant legal woes in recent months. I'll give you just the highlights of what actually occurred in November. He was sued for an abuse by a former partner. That lawsuit was then settled very quickly. But in December, he faced sexual assault allegations in a complaint filed in the Southern District of New York. The suit was brought by a woman referred to as Jane Doe, who said that she was 17 at the time when these allegations took place.
seen a flood of troubling information come out. Several of Diddy's former employees have spoken up, and both Dawn Richard and Cassie's best friend have also testified. The FBI has made public some of what they found in Diddy's homes. In response, Diddy's legal team is pushing back hard, fighting to challenge the evidence. But this case is about much more than just one man. It's about how wealth and influence can be used to do real harm. Prosecutors say Diddy wasn't acting alone. They believe he led a group of people who helped him carry out illegal activities. Things like drug trafficking.
Feds had collected, at least in part. We also learned the charges that Diddy faced: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. And again, Diddy's pleaded not guilty and denies those allegations. But this indictment, this OG indictment, which, by the way, there's been a couple of superseding ones, adding a couple charges here and there. Anyway, going back to the holy grail of it all, the original indictment, that's where we learned about what was collected, including all of that lube and baby oil. And all of this leads us straight back to the freak-offs and the civil cases that preceded the federal search warrants and then eventually the indictment. So Cassie, I know I talk about Cassie all the time, but we wouldn't be here were it not for Cassie. And Cassie's lawsuit is the one that first mentioned freak-offs. We heard about them again from Lil Rod. We've seen them in multiple different civil suits now, and additionally in the federal indictment. And here's how the Fed specifically explained freak-offs, quote, "Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded." Now, they also listed a couple of items that were used during these freak-offs, at least according to the Feds. They said that there were controlled substances used, and this was specifically to allegedly keep the victims obedient and compliant. The Feds also state that during these freak-off situations, recording devices were used. Now, sometimes the people involved in the freak-offs, allegedly, didn't know that they were being recorded. And then other times, Diddy and his team allegedly, would use these recordings as revenge porn and say, hey, if you come forward and report this to anyone, we've got this really embarrassing video. Why would you do that? So that's an allegation too. The feds also say that IV fluids were used in all of this, specifically because the people involved in the freak-offs had to recover from physical exertion and
trafficking, moving people without their consent, and secretly hiding large amounts of money. Things escalated when federal agents raided his properties in both Miami and Los Angeles. They walked away with hard drives, computers, cash, and even hidden documents. This isn't some small investigation. Powerful agencies like the FBI, IRS, and Homeland Security are all involved, and this isn't just rumor or speculation anymore. The case is now in court, with real lawyers, real judges, and real witnesses. And some of those witnesses are finally starting to speak out. One unexpected moment during the first week of trial was when Aaron Carter's name was mentioned. Aaron, who died in 2022, had spoken out before his death about troubling things going on in the music business. He posted videos and tweets saying that powerful people were trying to control him, that he felt threatened.
Singer Aaron Carter doesn't believe he died from a drug overdose and wants his death investigated further. I'm Anjanette Levy, and welcome back to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. Aaron Carter was found dead in a bathtub in his home in Los Angeles last November. Since that time, TMZ has reported the LA County coroner did not find water in his lungs, meaning he didn't drown. Carter's mother, Jane Schneck, posted photos on Facebook that show the bathroom where her son was found. She wrote on Facebook, "Because of my son's mental illness and prescription drug issues, they, the cops, just wanted it to be something easy that they didn't have the time or inclination to address." Schneck wants a more thorough investigation. She wrote that her son was receiving threats from many people, and she believes there were people out there who wanted to harm him. So joining me to discuss this issue and the death of Aaron Carter is Joseph Scott Morgan. He's a forensic death investigator and also the host of the Body Bags podcast. Joseph, welcome back to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Antoinette. Good to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about Aaron Carter's death. He was found in a bathtub in his home. We see from these photographs that there was some discoloration in the water. I have a feeling that was probably from his body releasing fluids following his death. So what can we glean thus far, aside from the fact that he didn't drown? They didn't find water in his lungs, according to this report by TMZ.
Well, if you're talking about the death investigation itself, we can glean the fact that they haven't come back with toxicology results yet. So at this point, and as you know, medical examiners and coroners are, I don't want to use the term notorious, but it takes time for these things to be fully realized because these tests take time. You don't, in a death investigation, you don't want things hurried up. And it seems as though some parties that are involved in this case want it sped up. And that's
an explosive start in the trial of Sean Combs today. A former member of the musical group Danity Kane is set to return to the stand to testify in the case against him. Dawn Richard testified Friday. She saw Combs attack his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura in 2009. CNN's Kara Scannell is outside the court with more details. What all can we expect to hear from her today as she takes the stand and later this week as well?
Good morning, Sarah. So Dawn Richard will be back on the witness stand this morning. Friday, her testimony, she said she witnessed Combs come downstairs into the kitchen, take a skillet with eggs in it, and attempt to hit Cassie Ventura, his then girlfriend, over the head. She also testified that Combs dragged Ventura up to the bedroom and she could hear glass breaking and yelling. The next day, Richard said Combs asked her to come back to his home into the recording studio. She said he locked the door and then told her where he comes from. People who speak sometimes go missing. She said that she took that as a threat. So she will be back on the witness stand this morning. Her testimony is supposed to wrap up pretty quickly, and then the prosecution is going to call Ventura's former best friend. We heard a lot about her last week. Her name is Carrie Morgan. She's expected to testify, and Ventura testified she was friends with Morgan before she met Combs and was friends with her throughout the relationship until Ventura said Combs hit Morgan, and that ended their friendship. So Morgan expected to be a prosecution witness who will corroborate some of what Ventura has said. After that, they're going to call a couple of people who worked for Combs, including a former personal assistant, a former chef. Prosecution said they also expect to call an escort this week, as well as Ventura's mother. Ventura has testified that she told her mother about some of the physical at the hands of Combs at one point in their relationship. So she will be another witness that the prosecution is calling this week. And of course, this is just week 2 of what the prosecution says will be 6 weeks of their